Following Paul Revere's famous. Wait a minute. Isn't that Jack Black? You know, the Goosebumps Kung Fu Panda guy? Focus. Following Paul Revere's famous ride through the Massachusetts countryside, warning colonists that the British regulars were marching to Lexington, things really began to heat up. Folks in Massachusetts had been having so much trouble with British rule that some colonists began forming military groups called colonial militias. These military groups were made up of regular folk, farmers, blacksmiths, shoemakers, the rowdy teenage boy from down the road. Definitely not professionally trained military personnel. But how hard can pulling a trigger be?
Let me at him.
Down, boy, down. Paul Revere, William Dawes, and Samuel Prescott shot through the night screaming their heads off, warning the militia to get on their arms. You know, grab their guns. It's time to stand up to that bully. Certain members of the militia were known as Minutemen. Men who could be ready to rumble at a minute's notice.
Let me at him.
Easy, boy. Take her easy. Paul Revere was caught and arrested by a British patrol, but they let him go. Oh, but they did take his horse to the impound lot. Revere was forced to walk back to Lexington to warn Adams and Hancock that the British were coming for them. When he arrived at their secret lair, or the house where they were staying, he found that they had already been warned and already had fled. Good work, Paul? With revolution in their veins and sleep still in their eyes, militiamen began to gather at a local tavern to wait for British regulars to arrive, if they dared. About 70 colonial militiamen gather in an open area called Lexington Green. It is there that they will wait for the arrival of the British regular army. I bet those redcoats don't even show up.
Let me at him.
Chill, big fella, chill. 700 of the King's men arrived in the quiet, quaint town of Lexington, looking to arrest Patriot leaders Sam Adams and John Hancock. When the British regulars got there, they found those brave militiamen ready for action.
Let me at him.
Okay, big fella. All right, big guy. There they stood on Lexington Green, Patriot and Redcoat, face to face, eye to eye, nose to nose. The tension could be cut with a knife. Finally, the silence was broken as the commanding British officer gave orders for the colonial militia to disperse, leave, and go home.
Throw down your arms, ye villains.
What was the Patriot response?
Let me at him.
No, more like, oh, okay, we'll leave. And the militia began heading home.
Let's get out of here.
What, are you disappointed? I mean, come on. These are professionally trained British soldiers, members of the greatest army in the world, up against a few shoemakers, farmers, and such. Had to be very scary indeed. Wait, what was that? What's that? A shot fired? But who? The British say it was a Patriot. The Patriots say it was the British. Some say a townsperson was cleaning a musket and it accidentally fired, while others say an old woman fired from an open window. So, right, nobody knows. What we do know is that all that nervous energy on both sides exploded into gunfire. The British opened fire, some Patriots returned fire, more Patriots ran for their lives. When the smoke cleared, 8 colonial men lay dead on Lexington Green, 10 more wounded. As for the British, forget arresting Sam Adams and John Hancock. The British regular army decided it just might be best to go to the town of Concord and grab those weapons they'd heard the Patriots had been storing and stockpiling. Some of the colonial militia thought it would be best to try to head off the British advance on Concord. They took defensive positions at the North Bridge. And when the British regular army approached, they ran away again. But this time, they were able to kill some of the British soldiers.
Let's get out of here!
The British regular army marched their way right into the town of Concord, searching for that barn where allegedly Patriot weapons were being kept. They found that barn, and as they creaked the door open, they found absolutely nothing. Well, maybe like a wagon wheel or something, but certainly not the weapons they had been after.
Bloody Patriots got here first.
Seeing that more and more Patriots were turning out with guns, the British regular army decided it might be best to hightail it the 30 miles back to Boston.
Come on, men, we gotta
But
go.
by then, the number of armed Patriots had grown dramatically, and they were really fired up after hearing the news of the 8 deaths on Lexington Green. They harassed, bothered, and attacked the British Army all the way on their march back to Boston. They shot at the British from the woods, from behind the trees, from stone walls.
Come on, men, we gotta go.
By the time the last of the British Army limped its way back to the safety of Boston, 73 British soldiers had been killed, and 174 wounded, 53 missing. On the Patriot side, 49 killed, 39 wounded, 5 missing. What? A Patriot victory? Although many now call this fight the battles of Lexington and Concord, this wasn't exactly a battle. Let's call it the first armed conflict. The first armed conflict of what became known as the American Revolutionary War. Oh, and that mystery shot in Lexington that started it all? It's referred to as the shot heard round the world. I know. It's not like the shot was heard in Australia, but it was a significant shot because it's the shot that started the first armed conflicts at Lexington and Concord, which would lead to an outright war with Great Britain. That's right. Eventually, a new nation called the United States of America. Yes, the shot heard round the world. I guess you language arts buffs would call that hyperbole. And remember the First Continental Congress? When all but one of the colonies sent representatives or delegates to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, to discuss the problems they were having with Great Britain? Well, after the battles of Lexington and Concord, it was definitely time to meet again. Things were going downhill in a hurry. This meeting is called the First Continental Congress, 1774. It's now 1775. This meeting is called the Second Continental Congress. I really don't need to mention this meeting at all. I mean, all that happened were 3 teeny tiny things. First, it was decided, after much bickering and arguing, to write the Declaration of Independence, the official announcement that the 13 colonies no longer wished to belong to Great Britain and wanted to be known from then on as the United States of America. Thomas Jefferson would become the main author of this document, with help from John Adams and Ben Franklin. Second thing at the Second Continental Congress was, If the 13 colonies wanted independence, they were at least wise enough to realize that Great Britain wasn't simply going to let them go and be independent. So, the Second Continental Congress made plans to raise an army. And not just any army either. This would be the Continental Army, an army for the entire continent of North America. Well, maybe just 13 little colonies, but the name sure had a nice ring to it. Thirdly, at the Second Continental Congress, if you now have an army, a continental army, then you will need somebody to lead it. But who? Who among us at this Second Continental Congress would want such a job? Psst, the guy over there has been wearing his army uniform like every day. You there? Who, me? Yes, you. Would you like to lead our new Continental Army? Now, whatever would make you want to ask me? I don't know. Let me think about it. Yes, please, please. I thought you'd never ask. I mean, I'd be honored. And just like that, George Washington was chosen to lead the Continental Army. You see what I mean? Not much happened at the Second Continental Congress. That's sarcasm. Hey, you can finally say it. Ready? 1, 2, 3. War! How could they do such a thing? The regulars are coming! The regulars are coming!
Let me at him. Let me at him.